Let's take a look at the packet tracer for the final project. So this is partially completed. It's been edited quite a bit, maybe starting halfway through. So let's see what we've got. Tried to do the things you'd be familiar with from the previous labs. So here's our remaining router. It's got two virtual interfaces, as you can imagine, 0.1 and 0.2, and those are on our trunk, and they've had their encapsulation set to .1Q, and their access is set to VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. Point 1 is 10, point 2 is 20. So that's the router. The other end of the trunk is here on port 24. It's up. Actually should have put it on. Actually, let's see what port it is on. Yeah, it's on 24. And it's been configured. We may have to check the configuration through the command line interface, but anyway, this is our trunk here. We did not need a crossover cable there. I've started configuring this switch. The switch has the ranges were set for 1 through 10 to go to VLAN 10, and the ranges for 11 through 20 were set to go to VLAN 20. Don't worry about the VLAN 99. That's something you can do if you want to, but it's not actually required any longer since we used a USB serial connection to do the actual lab. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through the configuration over here on this switch that I just did on that switch. And you'll just do the same thing in both places. These switches are configured the same way. The only difference is that switch 1 has the trunk to the router that's going to serve as the default gateways for the two virtual networks. Okay, and these guys are not going to be configured yet. Well, it looks like it has some configuration. I'm not exactly sure why. Let's see if we can figure out why. Well, I must have hit it with DHCP once upon a time, so I'm going to get rid of that configuration. Okay, so there it is. And we'll check this one to make sure it's not configured. So when we get configured, we want it to be done by DHCP. We don't want to do it manually. So here the interface is good, not configured. That's what we want. So these guys are not configured. Here's our crossover cable. It looks like it's on 22 and 22, which is fine. It needs to be on a port that's not really part of either. It doesn't need to be on a VLAN. It's just one of the unconfigured ports. We could do more configuring that, but it should work as long as these two switches are connected. Okay, and then up here we have a web server. It has a statically configured IP address of 2.80, and we've set his gateway to be 2.1 and his DNS server to be 1.2, which I think is actually, well, that none of that's configured yet. So let's change those to both be the same. Let's see, is it going to be 1.2? It depends on what I configure this guy over here to be. Okay, so it may be a little premature to have set this up. You may want to check it later if there's a problem hitting the web server. I've also made a few little changes on the web server. Here I can get at it through that address, since it's a static address. Right now the routing may not be working. That's okay. What did I say it was? 2.80. So I'm putting in his own IP address. Oops, I put it in wrong. And you know, I made a few little editing changes here. You can do whatever you want. I made it CS225 and myberry.edu just so we know that we're hitting the one that we configured. Okay, so that's how you do that. So let's go to the switch, and I'm going to do this through the client interface as best as I can remember off the top of my head. Need to tap enter a couple of times. And enable to get to the privileged user mode, and then config terminal. To get into configuration mode. And to the best of my recollection, this is takes the interface command, interface range. Put a question mark there and see what it says. We seem to be doing the right thing. So interface range. Let me back up once and put the question mark in so you can see it. So you see down here, range is one of the commands that goes with interface. So we're setting up a range. I'm going to try to set it here. Oh, yeah, 0, 1. So we want to go 1 and 10. It takes a hyphen, and there needs to be a space here and a space there in order to get it to work. Okay, so now you can see we're configuring a range. Well, what do we want to do with that range? We want to put it on a VLAN. So interface, access mode, I better put a switch port. Mode, access, because it's an access port, and then we're going to set the access to VLAN 10. So all 10 of these ports, it takes a space between VLAN and 10. All 10 of those ports are going to be on that network, right? All right, so we've done that, and then we can back up and define another range. I think I can do it without exiting out. Let's see if it's going to let me. No, it doesn't. So let me do that. No, okay, so I'll just hit exit and go back around again. And it didn't like exit either. Exit. Okay, we'll go back again. So now we want to set the range from 11. So I'm just editing this to 20. Remember, there has to be a space before and after the hyphen or it won't work. So I've exited back to config mode and out of IF range configuration. So I can set that up. And now I can repeat some of the commands. I can set its mode to access. but I want to set it on VLAN 20. Okay, so now this switch is set up like the other switch. I can show that exit will take me back. Actually, I could have said end and gone all the way back. So to privileged user mode and show VLAN. And you can see our two VLANs are set up here. So VLAN 10 is the first 10 and VLAN 20 is the second 10. So this is so now this switch, if you look at it, is set up the same as this switch. Possibly could have just copied and pasted it. I didn't try that. As long as they're the same. Okay, so now the switches are both set up. We don't have DHCP and DNS working yet, and I'm not exactly sure whether the trunking's working properly, but we'll find that out in just a minute. So let's go over it. As you know, there's a couple of ways to set up DNS and DHCP. We could have set it up here on the router through the client interface. You have all the instructions to do that. Perhaps a simpler way is to just add a server here and go to config and pick the DHCP. I don't want to use the default. I want to use one called VLAN 10. And the default gateway is going to be this guy. When we set him up, we're going to set him up as a static address 192.168. I forgot what I said. 1.2 maybe. And of course the DNS server. Oh no, wait, that's the gateway. Okay, so that's going to be 1.1. So he's going to be on the one network, so he's going to be the same. DNS will be the same thing. I'm sorry, not the same address, but the same network. So we're going to put it on 2. We haven't configured him to have an his interface to have an IP address yet, so that's a little strange. So here we'll do 192.168.1, and then we'll start at 100 for the DHCP addresses, and this should come to 255. Oops, mistyped. 255.255.0, and then we can add that. Alright. This guy's not going to do anything yet because he's not connected. Let's see if it took. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so now we need to set up another one. VLAN 20. Oh, 20. This is going to have this different default gateway because it's a different network. Remember, we have these two virtual interfaces on this router, one for each network. So this router's got access 2 gateways, and the DNS server is going to stay the same, and he's going to start at 2.100. And let's see what we've got here. So we've got VLAN 10, same DNS server. Let's stretch it out, we can see it a little better. So same DNS server, different gateways. This is correct. Okay, this is what you want to see right there. Pause if you want to look at that for a moment. Alright, so he's got DHCP configured. Let's do our DNS. The name is going to be www.myberry.edu, and its address is going to be that server up there, 192.168.2.80, and I'm just going to tell it to add. So there's myberry.edu. It's going to resolve itself to that address. That server 0 is doing all that good stuff. Now we need to give him access. Let me look at him again. What did I say he was? Say the DNS was going to be. I'm sorry, the DHCP. DNS server. DNS server is 1.2, so he needs to be 1.2. So he's going to be, we're going to do static for him, 192.168.1.1, since he's on the 1 network. He's going to be his own DNS server, 192.168.1.2, but he's static, right? And over here he's going to be 192.168.1.2, and all it's the right configuration. And sometimes you turn it on and off just to make sure the configuration takes. So now all he needs is a wire. We want to be kind of careful where we put him. We only have one choice there, but here we have several. If I'm clicking there just to see, I'm clicking there just to see. I want to get outside of 20. I'll put him on 21. Is that right? No, that's not right. I want to put him on VLAN. Now I gotta check his IP address again. He's on 1, so he's got to be on VLAN 1. Sorry about that. Take it back off. Click. Take it back off. And he needs to be on VLAN 1. I think 2 is, we'll have to check it, but I think that's right. 2 is on 10, and 10 is the .1 network. Okay. Doesn't seem it's taken yet. Is his interface up? Yes, it is. HTTP on, DHCP is off. Let's turn it on. And let's see if DNS, we want to turn DNS on too. Okay, so we've turned everything on. All the lights are green. Let's see if these guys ever picked up an IP address. Not yet. Interesting. So let's go to their interface, turn it off, and turn it on. I'm still not seeing. Seems to be a problem here too. Let's see what port I've got him in. He needs to be, it doesn't matter actually. Let's put him at 11. Oh, looks like 11 is already being used. We'll put him in 1. Hopefully we'll get a green light here. And it looks like the VLANs are okay. Well, let's see what we can ping here. We may have some problems with the routes. See if we can ping the router. And it doesn't seem too anxious to do that. Let's see what happened over here on this switch. Well, that seems to have got configured, but it doesn't look like the right configuration to me. It didn't evidently use DHCP. Interesting. Let's clear that out again. Let's disconnect it. Alright, so it should have hooked up on someplace here. And it's still not picking up. Well, I may have failed to do something here. So this guy is on the 168.1 network. There's 1.2. He's got the right gateway. And okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this and call it part 1. And come back around again and do a part 2 after I troubleshoot this.